Dank times, Danker thoughts, sweet vibes and taking it sleazy. The dankness is taking over, nonsense is dancing through his mind. Oh, the dankness is taking over. Dank times, Danker thoughts with Angelo, Grosso.
Well, hello there. Your boy's got cabin fever. Pretty bad. And it started on Christmas night. My heat pump, or something to do with the heat pump, or my furnace, went kaput. And so I've been fighting that for a couple days. As I record this, I've been snowed in for about 5 days. See, Sunday, Monday, 5 or 6 days. 2 of those days I was fighting the cold in the house because of said heat pump issues. But thankfully I have a lot of friends that have been blessed with my life that are able to fix such things. And we didn't fix it 100%, but we at least MacGyvered it, or MacGrubered it, which have you. And I at least am able to heat up the house using only the furnace and hybrid heat. So I don't exactly know what's wrong, but at least my house is a toasty 71, 72. Outside, it's about 30 degrees. And let me look out my window here. Yep, still look like we got about 6 or 7 inches out there. Unfortunately, this is fucking up my New Year's Eve plans. For about the last month, everyone's been excited about going to my friend's house in Miramont, Issaquah, up on Tiger Mountain. Is it Tiger Mountain or Cougar Mountain? Well, one of those two fucking cat mountains. They live up there. We go every year. It coincides with another great friend's birthday. I mean, how would you like to have New Year's Eve as your birthday? So every year, it's a big blowout bash. But because of the fucking snow this year, and the ice, and not to mention, I live on a hill, and the person's house that we'd be going to, they live on an even steeper hill. They live in a goddamn mountain. It sure looks like your boy will be spending New Year's Eve home alone. Well, LaFonda's here, but she doesn't really count as company, because she doesn't respond back when I talk to her. Usually she doesn't. And when she does, that means I usually have drinking too much or smoked too much. But anyways, enough about that. I'm sure most of you have cabin fever as well. Because even if you had like a all-terrain souped up truck with like big thick ass sexy tires, I don't know if it would make much difference. My little Subaru has all-wheel drive, but I'm not trusting these roads. Now where I live in Auburn, there's a lot of dips and little minor hills, a lot of inclines, a lot of declines, and with it being frozen snow for the past 5 or 6 days, it ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. Even with the invite of being picked up and be taking to said New Year's Eve party. The person that was picking me up is now having second thoughts, so we just said, fuck it, let's push it a week. We can have a belated New Year's Eve / birthday party. That way everyone's safe and sound, and we can get tipsy and trashed at a safer, warmer date. Now, enough about that. How was everybody's Christmas? I hope it was everything you wanted it to be and more. I hope there was no arguments or, dinner plates being thrown against the wall a la American Beauty because of politics or vaccination garbage, whatever. It doesn't fucking matter. I hope that everyone was able to just be, calm, cool, and collected around their family and extended family. I know it's not easy. Sure shit wasn't for me, but it still was nice what I did. My mother came to visit me the eve of Christmas Eve. And I've talked about it before on this podcast, but the last 10 years, I have seen both of my parents age horribly. They have turned into senior citizens. Now, again, my parents are older than most parents my age. In fact, I was just talking to my best bud, and I couldn't remember the age of his parents, and they were in their early 60s. I'm like, shit, my parents are in their mid to early 70s. Well, my father's mid, my mother's early 70s, but still, 70 is a big fucking deal. And it sure seems like once my parents hit like 68, 69, 70, it just turned to shit. Now, my father, for example, has always been a misanthropic, depressed, narcissistic, woe is me kind of person. So not exactly cheerful. But there was at least a balance that he could do more often than not. But lately, over the last few years, oh my God, once you think his negativity could not get any worse, it does. And once you think he can't hit rock bottom, he discovers a shovel and a pick, and by God, he digs deeper. My mother, on the other hand, is not as negative, but she does worry. And boy, does she worry about everything. And they both have their own physical ailments, mental ailments, what have you. But it's frustrating and kind of horrifying to see your parents become, well, old as fuck people. And with my sister passed, I don't have anyone to really support me with my immediate family. That's not even mentioning my extended family. I'm dealing with something like that as well. I mean, that was also a big thing around my Christmas. Was I have an aunt and an uncle who are, for the lack of a better word, batshit crazy. And when you mix that with their just awful, awful mental and physical disabilities. Well, my aunt has some awful physical ailments, and my uncle just is all mental. Who would have thought my uncle would have been crazy? All he does is work all day, come home, isolate himself, and just watch Fox News all day. Who would have thought watching Fox News all day by yourself, surrounded by your dead parents' stuff, because his parents have died a long time ago. He actually lives in the same house as his parents did, and he saved everything. So my uncle is a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs to begin with. And then he starts watching Fox News all goddamn day. And you know what? Surprisingly, he's turned out to be pretty goddamn paranoid. And an asshole. But that goes hand in hand. So, anyway, let me back up. I'm not here just bitching about my family. My Christmas. So yes, my mother came on Christmas Eve. And, you know, it was tough. She has a hard time getting around. She has a walker now. And it's something you never want to see your parent using, is a fucking walker. She doesn't have the tennis balls on it yet because she can still lift, but those days are numbered. And, you know, she could barely make it out of her car down my driveway into level ground. I mean, there was maybe 2 steps on a decline until my driveway flattens out to even, and then there's a little step to get onto my porch and then to the house, and she had a hard time doing that. And so she said kind of sardonically, well, so much for stairs. I mean, that's awful. You can't go upstairs anymore. So she could not go up the stairs up to the second level, so she had to sleep on my fucking couch, which I felt awful for. I offered to bring down my second mattress downstairs. I offered to bring my blow-up mattress downstairs. But my mom worried about nonsense. Oh, don't worry. I'll just try to be comfortable on the couch. I was like, Jesus Christ. It's a fucking nightmare. Usually I go see her for the very reasons I'm explaining to, but she was adamant. She wanted to see my house. She's only been here once or twice. And, you know, she wanted to spend Christmas with me. And I think it also had something to do with the Omicron variant kind of wiping out the entire housing structure where she lives. She lives in government-assisted housing, HUD is what they call it. And it's on lockdown, basically, because everyone that lives there is piss-ass broke, old, out of shape, and close to death. And so they don't need a young upstart like your boy here going in to pick up their mom, and I could leave any kind of COVID variant, even though I am fully vaccinated and I got that booster. But still, why take the risk? So she came over here. It was kind of a pain in the ass just to get her here because she refuses to use the maps on her phone. So she was going off of memory, and she's only been to my house once or twice, and she refuses to talk on her phone while she's driving. So I told her, you're gonna get lost. You have no idea where I live. You won't print out instructions because she doesn't like looking at things when she drives because I can't see, she says. I mean, her eyesight's bullshit too, which makes me question why was she driving to begin with if she can't see things, but whatever. Again, she's a worry wart. So she got lost. I had to get in my car and drive around until I finally found her, and she followed me. Again, I pleaded with her, let me show you how to use the map app on your cell phone like the other 99% of the world uses. But she refused. You can't, it's not a hill I'm worth to die on, you know. But once she got in the house and kind of, you know, caught her breath and kind of just, okay, I'm here. Let's have some fun. I took her out for a nice latte and a good lunch. We chit-chatted a lot, and we wanted to watch a nice Christmas movie, and we settled on Gremlins, which is, you know, I would say a top 10 Christmas movie of mine. I've seen it probably 5 or 6 times. She has only seen it, I think she told me twice, and she hasn't seen it in probably 10, 15 years. So that's what we did. We watched a bunch of weird shit on YouTube because whenever she visits me here, she wants to try marijuana because she doesn't feel comfortable trying marijuana. Well, let me rephrase. She takes edibles where she lives, but she wants to try the bong. She wants to try the joint. She wants to try everything else, but she's worried about smoke and her neighbors and blah, 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 blah. But my house, she can wreck it for all she cares. And boy, did she get fucking high. And I don't even remember what we were watching. Oh, we were watching How To with John Wilson on HBO. We must have watched that for 2-3 hours. So, you know, all in all, it was a really fun time. But, you know, it was kind of a come to Jesus moment because I'm watching my mother just deteriorate in so many different ways. What's next is her mental capability, and that's really going to break my heart, more so than it already has. Not to mention, the whole time she was here, we were talking about, you know, my aunt, my uncle, who were dealing with their own shit, and the hospital called when she was here, and we learned a bunch of new things. It's just a clusterfuck. So, people, if you have old parents or old relatives and they're fucking crazy in the head, you have got to sit them down, pretend that you care if you have to, but for the love of all that's holy in this world, you have got to sit them down and try to figure out a game plan, a strategy for what happens if someone fucking falls or has to go to the hospital or has a stroke or gets a tumor. You need to have a game plan when people get old, let alone you have to figure out the goddamn will. Now, my aunt and uncle, they never reproduced, thank God. And they've mentioned a few times that I'm the closest thing they have to a son, but I'm not that close. And as you can tell by me talking about them, I don't necessarily even like them as people. But they are family, and they are struggling, and I will do whatever I can to help them. But good God, am I going to tell them off as I'm helping them? So that was Christmas Eve. My mom stayed for a couple hours on Christmas Eve, and then she took off about midday. And then on actual Christmas, I went to go see my father for the whole day. And, whew, I tell you, when I could have used thoughts and prayers, people, I could have used thoughts and prayers. I mean, just bah humbug from the get-go. He pish-poshed any idea of watching Christmas stuff during the day. Instead, he wanted to argue with me about how good of an actor Keanu Reeves is. Lately, he's been on a Keanu Reeves kick, and I think my dad wants to fuck Keanu Reeves, which I don't blame him. He's an attractive man, Keanu Reeves, not my father. And all I said to him was, look, I enjoy Keanu Reeves as a person, and I enjoy most of his movies. Not all, but most. I love the John Wick movies. I was excited for the Matrix movie. I'll come back to that shit show later. And Bill and Ted, and what was the movie with Patrick Swayze, the bromance movie? You know what I'm talking about. So yeah, I like Keanu Reeves, but he's not a good actor. And when I say that, I mean like a classically trained actor. If you are making a period piece movie that requires facial expressions and woe and sorrow and anger and depression, you know, the wide spectrum of acting, Keanu Reeves is not your man. Now, if you're making a movie like Speed or John Wick or The Devil's Advocate or movies that don't require in-depth acting, then Keanu Reeves is your man. I would throw Mark Wahlberg in that list, Ethan Hawke, other actors like that. But my father said that in his opinion, Keanu Reeves is as good of an actor as Leonardo DiCaprio, and I just could not let that stupidity stand. I'm all for sharing opinions, meeting people halfway, but when someone says something as ludicrous and Franks and Beans as that statement, I have to laugh. And anyway, so that turned into a multiple hour, in-depth search on the Fire Stick over all Keanu Reeves movies. Let's watch all the trailers. And that's kind of how I spent half of my fucking Christmas day, is revolving around Keanu Reeves and my father's obsession of him. I could not believe it. My father's girlfriend got there late, so dinner was late. Dinner was excellent. We made ciappino. Ciappino? I don't know. It's an Italian dish. Seafood and tomato soup. It's excellent. It's a very expensive, exotic, dare I say, hoity malloy. Is that the term? Fancy is what I'm saying. And the dinner was excellent. But just all day of just mumbling and grumbling and humbugging it up. No presents were given because I took him out to dinner. He didn't want an actual present. He just gave me a check, which I'm not going to complain about money, but there's no heart to it. Lane at least got me presents, which surprised me, but it shouldn't have because she gives me presents every year. And I, of course, didn't buy her shit, and I felt so bad, and I threw myself on her mercy. And she said, "Oh, don't worry about it. I didn't expect you to get me anything. Plus, that dinner was excellent." I was like, fuck, these old people are so easy. Just feed them. But anyway, so that was my Christmas. It was strange. I won't exactly say it was heartfelt, but it was great seeing my mom. It was okay seeing my dad. And then I came home that Christmas evening. Then I told you my heat pump went out, and now we're basically caught up. But that's not the only thing that was happening around Christmas time. Let me pull up a story here. Armed man with a hit list, including the president, Fauci, and others, was arrested in Iowa on his way to the White House. Huh. So while you were opening presents, drinking eggnog, roasting chestnuts, hanging mistletoe on your belt loop, this motherfucker was making a different kind of naughty or nice list, and he was ready to, drop some coal into some of these people's stockings, so to speak. But instead of coal, it was bullets. Instead of stockings, it was the meat sack that is the human body. But let me go ahead and pull up the article here. Authorities in Iowa have arrested a man who was found during a traffic stop to be carrying a rifle and a hit list that included President Biden and Anthony Fauci. Now, this guy's name is a little tough, so bear with me here. Kauchua Brilliant Zhang from Merced, California. So let me start over with this name. His first name is Kuchua. It's Kuachua. Good luck at pronouncing that. Middle name, Brilliant. Again, I didn't know this was even a word. Brilliant is spelled Brillion. Last name, Zhang. Xiong. So when I hear the name Kauchua Brilliant Zhang, I think of like 6 different races. So I don't really know who or what this person looks like, but I gotta say, with the last name of Zhang, I would have to think he's either Vietnamese or Chinese. So much for anti-Asian discrimination. This Asian is doing way worse than discriminating against us. He's actively trying to take out the trash, as he puts it. But anyway, Kauchua Brilliant Zhang was taken into custody last week after allegedly telling police who pulled him over for driving aggressively, that's the least of his words, that he was on his way to the White House to kill persons in power, according to the federal court records. Authorities say they found an AR-15 type rifle. Shocker. A crazy person with a murder list has an assault weapon. In America? Shocking. This doesn't happen. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic, you mooks. They found an AR-15 type rifle, ammunition, body armor, medical kits, and a grappling hook. Fuck, he's watching too many goddamn Batman movies. In the vehicle. Zhang's hit list of targets compiled from TikTok videos. Oh, lovely TikTok. It's the gift that keeps on giving. In addition to Biden and Fauci, it is reported the list included former presidents Clinton and Obama. Jeez, I wonder who he voted for. And Meta chief executive Mark Zuckerberg. Well, I can't. Some of these people make sense on the list. Zhang believes that he's the only person remaining who can free the United States of evil, and it is necessary for him to kill those in positions of power, said a Secret Service agent. Zhang also told authorities that if he was released from custody, he would continue traveling to the White House and do whatever it takes to complete his plan. Wow, A+ for effort though, Zhang. Zhang also stated that he has no intention of returning to California to see his family because he plans on dying while fighting evil demons at the White House. Oh, it's one of those suicide by police type deals, huh? Zhang, 25. Oh, boy. Fucking millennials, I tell you. Oh, wait, 25 is Gen Z or millennials? It doesn't matter. He was booked in Iowa's Pottawatomie County on December 21st. He's scheduled to appear in Durka. So, fucking wild. Other people are Christmas shopping, loading up for the holidays. This guy told his family, I love you, but I'm fucking out of here. I'm talking to demons in my head. They're telling me to kill some other demons. I hope that he's getting the help he deserves. Good Lord. Good Lord. So once again, assault weapon in the hands of a nut job. But we don't need gun laws in this country. Surely the Shady Hook middle school shooting cleared all that up, right? When we decided as a nation that it may be easier not to change the status quo and just let children be slaughtered in schools. That is a hill most of us were willing to die on. Much like the kids who are running from bullets. So, anyway, I hope I'm making sense. But let's continue. Enough about Christmas. Well, a new report came out that said fentanyl has now become the leading cause of death in America for people aged 18 to 45. Hey, that's me! So let's see, 18 to 45. That's Gen Z, millennials, and I think Gen X, if I'm not mistaken. Well, let me go ahead and pull up the article here. The number one killer of Americans aged 18 to 45 is now fentanyl overdoses, with nearly 79,000 people in that age range dying between 2020 and 2021, according to newly released data. Families Against Fentanyl, an opioid awareness organization, analyzed the data from U.S. government sources and found 37,208 died in 2020 and 41,587 died in 2021. Now, that is not even all of 2021. Let's see, does it say when the 2021 data ends? Because technically we're still in 2021. And I would imagine the holidays, a lot of suicides are going to happen. So that number's going to go up, which is unfortunate. This is a national emergency. America's young adults, thousands of unsuspecting Americans, are being poisoned, the founder of Families Against Fentanyl says. James Rauh, R-A-U-H. It is widely known that illicit fentanyl is driving the massive spike in drug-related deaths. A new approach to this catastrophe is needed. I mean, it's getting so bad out there, people. I don't think I'll do cocaine if it's being offered to me anymore, because the amount of coke overdoses because of fentanyl is just too damn high. It ain't worth it. I'll stick to booze and weed, thank you very much, and the occasional psychedelic. Fentanyl is an incredibly powerful synthetic opioid, according to the National Institute in Drug Abuse. It is reportedly similar to morphine, but it is 50 to 100 times more potent. Like morphine, it is a medicine that is typically used to treat patients with severe pain, especially after surgery. It is also sometimes used to treat patients with chronic pain who are physically tolerant to other opioids. According to the Drug Enforcement Agency, both Mexico and China are the primary sources for fentanyl flowing into America. The DEA says India is becoming more and more of a source of fentanyl supply in the United States. That's right, baby. Keep it coming. You may be killing us all Americans, but god damn it, at least some countries are getting rich off our corpses. Bold action is needed to stop this trend, says Families Against Fentanyl. The U.S. needs the authority to root out the international manufacturers and traffickers of this dangerous chemical before it reaches our streets. Fentanyl deaths in America across all age groups doubled between April 2019 and April 2021, according to the data. Oh, so it's only through April 2021? I hate to break it to you people, but there's been 6 months since then? I bet those numbers are doubled, baby! Experts reportedly believe the impact of the coronavirus pandemic has correlated to the increase of fentanyl overdoses. Well, duh. We definitely believe that there's a correlation between the recent stimulus checks that were sent out and the overdoses we're seeing right now. What? So wait, the government gives us money, we're going to buy fentanyl and overdose? That's a broad statement. I can't imagine more than 20% of people did that. We saw an increase in overdoses after the first round of stimulus payouts. We annually see an increase in overdoses following tax returns. This is coming from Substance Abuse Coalition from Northern Shenandoah Valley. Well, I mean, whatever. This was told to Fox News, so they probably said, oh, so it's Biden's fault that all these opioid deaths are happening? No, it's the stimulus checks that are in tax returns, so you can't blame Biden for that. But you're on Fox News, so what we're hearing is that Biden is encouraging fentanyl overdoses. We're going to run with it, baby. I kid, but that's probably what the news lines are. Families Against Fentanyl want lawmakers to designate the drug as a weapon of mass destruction. Fuck yeah, baby. Saying so could save lives. A weapons of mass destruction designation can empower the U.S. to shift from a policy of mass incarceration of Americans with substance abuse, using disorder and low-level drug dealers, to an all-out government approach to stop the flow of this poison in our country and stop the poisoning of our people. It's hard to disagree with that. I've been hearing about fentanyl overdoses for the past, 5 or 6 years, and it's only getting worse during the pandemic. Again, none of this is shocking news, but what is shocking to me is that it's the number one cause of death. 18 to 49, whatever that number is. I mean, that's pretty crazy. But I think it speaks to more than just, us wanting to have a good time because we're young. It's because people are in pain, either physically or mentally or emotionally. And what is the quickest, easiest way to lift yourself out of the drudgery that is the American life during the pandemic? Drugs, of course. And let's face facts, we don't have a security net or a safety net in place for people that have these addiction problems. I mean, if you look at the homeless population in this country, how many people are homeless directly caused by fentanyl? Now, you can try to blame them. Well, surely they had to make a decision. Sure. But if fentanyl is as addicting as they say it is, you don't stand a goddamn chance. There's a reason why people take heroin once or twice, and then that's their life. By the way, fentanyl, I believe, is in heroin. Is it in coke too? Whatever. It's in a lot of shit. However, I have a sneaking suspicion based on no evidence whatsoever, but I'm an American white male with a podcast, so I'm going to spout some conspiracies now. I kid, I don't truly believe this, but I heard this as a take, and it kind of makes sense. Now, do I believe in it? No. If it turned out to be true, would it surprise me? No. So I will say this is 50-50 of truth, but I think it bears repeating here. I have a sneaking suspicion that China is getting revenge, not only on the American people, but also the colonials people that fucked over China for centuries. Because if you look up fentanyl overdoses in Europe, it is really bad in Great Britain, where if you don't know your world history, I think the term colonialist came from Great Britain. So there's a reason why people of color just don't trust white people in power some of the times, and they tell you what they can and cannot do for them. But why do I think that this is China's revenge? Well, it's a little something called the Opium Wars. What's the Opium Wars? You weren't taught this in school? Shocking. The American public school system failed you again. Let me go ahead and pull up this motherfucker here. The Opium Wars. I can't say that word. The Opium Wars were two wars waged between the Qing dynasty, that's from China, and Western powers. Now, they don't even tell who the countries are. Just China versus the West. It's still happening. In the mid-19th century. What's the exact date? 1839. So China's been plotting their revenge since 1839 on us white honky bitches for getting them hooked on the drug known as opium. The first Opium War, fought in 1839 to 1842, not that long, only a couple of years, between China and the United Kingdom, was triggered by the Qing dynasty's campaign against the British merchants who sold opium in China. I'm going to say opium wrong and probably 20 different ways, so bear with me. The second Opium War, Jesus Christ, I'm fucking Franks and Beans over here, was fought between the Qing dynasty and the United Kingdom and France. Oh, the frogs had got to kick in on this one in 1856 to 1860, so a couple of years later. In each war, the European forces' modern military technology led to easy victories over the Chinese Qing forces, with the consequences that the government was compelled to grant favorable tariffs, trade concessions, reparations, and territory to the Europeans. What territory, you say? Have you heard of Hong Kong? Yes, Hong Kong was on a British rule only until the fucking late 90s. The wars and the subsequently imposed treaties weakened the Qing dynasty in China and the Chinese imperial government overall, and forced China to open specified treaty ports, specifically in Shanghai, that handled all trade with the imperial powers. In addition, China gave the sovereignty over Hong Kong to the United Kingdom. I already said that. Around this time, China's economy also contracted slightly, meaning white people, saw China and said, you know what? I don't like how big China's getting. Let's get them addicted to drugs. And you know what? It worked. Just like it worked with the indigenous peoples in America by giving them booze. And I think the Australians did something to the Aborigines there. But it's just history does not pull punches. So if you think about it, really think about it, if we got an entire generation, and maybe even multiple generations of Chinese people addicted to opium, that ruined their economy and had them basically sign over everything over to the whiteys, surely the sleeping tiger that is China will bide its time. And lo and behold, the amount of fentanyl coming out of China is comparably doing the same thing to America and the West, if you really want to think about it. So what exactly happened during these wars? This isn't a history lesson, but I think it's important. So the first Opium War began in 1839 and was fought over trading rights, open trade, and especially diplomatic status. In the 18th century, China had a trade surplus with Europe, selling porcelains, silk, and tea in exchange for silver. In the late 18th century, the British East India Company, and if you ever want to cry in bed and wonder why the world hates us, read about the British East India Company. Good God, nightmares. The British East India Company expanded cultivation of opium in its Indian Bengal territories, selling it to private traders who transported it to China and passed it on to Chinese smugglers. By 1787, the company was sending 4,000 chests of opium per year. Opium. Why can I not say that word correctly? In the earlier times in China, opium, fucking Franks and Beans over here, opium was taken as a relatively harmless medicine, but the new practice of smoking opium recreationally increased demand tremendously and often led to addiction. The Chinese emperor issued edicts making opium illegal in 1729, 1799, 1814, and 1831, but imports grew as smugglers and colluding officials sought profit. Some Americans even entered the trade by smuggling opium from Turkey into China, including Warren Delano Jr., the grandfather of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Oh, fucking awesome. All right, let me kind of skip ahead here. In 1839, China sent a letter to Queen Victoria pleading for a halt to the opium contraband. China ordered the seizure of all opium in the Canton region, including held by foreign governments and the trading companies, called factories, and the companies prepared to hand over a token amount to placate China. Chief Superintendent of British Trade in China, however, Charles Elliot, arrived 3 days after China's self-imposed deadline as Chinese soldiers enforced a shutdown and blockade of the opium factories. The standoff ended after Charles Elliot, the British trade motherfucker, paid for all the opium on credit from the British government, despite lacking official authority to make such a purchase, and handed the 20,000 chests of opium over to the Chinese government, who had them destroyed. Well, I'm sure that the British East India Company will say, you know what? Our product was killing an entire generation of entire race of people. Maybe we should trust the culture. Psych! London was then advised of what was happening and conspired to use military force against the Chinese. A small skirmish occurred between the Brits and the Chinese vessels on September 4th, 1839. Almost after a year, the British government decided on May 1840 to send troops to impose reparations for the financial losses of the British traders for the opium destruction. On June 1840, a British naval force arrived off Macau and moved to bombard the port of Dinghai. In the ensuing conflict, the Royal Navy used its superior ships and guns to inflict a series of decisive defeats on the Chinese Empire. The war was concluded by the Treaty of Nanking in 1842, the first of the unequal treaties between China and the Western powers. And if you ever want to know how we fucked over China more, read about the unequal treaties. It has its own section. The treaty forced China to give Hong Kong Island over to the United Kingdom and establish 5 treaty ports at Shanghai, Canton, Ningpo, Fuzhou, and Amoy. The treaty also imposed a $21 million payment to the United Kingdom, with $6 million paid immediately and the rest through specified installments thereafter. Another treaty the following year gave most favored nation status to the British Empire and added provisions for British extraterritoriality, whatever the fuck that is, but it doesn't sound good to the Chinese. France secured the same concessions and treaties of 1843 and 1844 because in 1853, the Second Opium War started. Let me pull that up here. In 1853, northern China was convulsed by the Taiping Rebellion, which established its capital at Nanking. In spite of this, a new imperial commissioner was appointed in 1853, determined to stamp out the opium trade, which was still technically illegal in China. In October 1856, China seized the Arrow, a ship claiming British registration, and threw its crew into chains. The governor of British Hong Kong, some jabroni named Sir John Bowring, called up Rear Admiral Sir Michael Seymour, East India and China Station fleet, which on October 23rd bombarded and captured the Pearl River forts on the approaching to Canton, and proceeded to bombard Canton itself. But they had insufficient forces to take and hold the city. On December 15th, during a riot in Canton, European commercial properties were set on fire, and Bowring appealed for military intervention. The murder of a French missionary, these fucking missionaries always getting in the way, inspired support from France. The European allies, including the United Kingdom, France, and the Russian Empire, what do the Ruskies want, now sought greater concessions from China, including legalization of the opium trade, expansion of the transport of cheap laborers, and opening all of China to British merchants and opium traffickers, and exempting foreign imports from internal transit duties. What the fuck that means. The war resulted in the Treaty of Tientsin, which forced the Chinese to pay reparations again for the expenses of the recent war, open a second group of 10 ports to European commerce, legalize the opium trade, and grant foreign traders and missionaries rights to travel within China. After a second phase of fighting, which included the sack of the old Sumner Palace and the occupation of the Forbidden City Palace in Beijing, the treaty was confirmed by the Convention of Peking in 1860. So, what did we learn? White people fucked over the China people, and I really do think that China bid their time, got fentanyl, and said, you know what? Do you remember what the British, the French, the Russians, basically the white honky bitches, did to us during the whole 1800s? And you know what? The Chinese weren't exactly treated well in America either. So let's get our revenge. So let's get an entire generation or more addicted to fentanyl the way we were addicted to opium. Do I think that's what's happening? I'm not an expert, but can you connect the dots and see what it really is? Yeah, I suppose so. So, China, if you're listening, and I know that you are, just know, I didn't get your great-great-great-grandparents addicted to opium. I didn't do shit. I don't like taking drugs to begin with. Well, drugs that are manufactured. I'll take anything that's natural, like mushrooms, marijuana, anything like that. I'll lick a toad if I have to. But anything that's made in a lab, look, again, like, I'm not going to say that COVID was made in a lab, but it sure shit seems like it was. So if trying to release both COVID and the fentanyl, you can't really blame them. And if we all end up speaking Mandarin in a few decades, we really only have ourselves to blame. So with that, let's move on to other happier topics. Well, the Seahawks lost again. This time to a third-string quarterback of the Chicago Bears. Now, that third-string quarterback happens to be Super Bowl winner and MVP Nick Foles, but still, you're the third-string quarterback for a reason, and you're playing for a team, the Chicago Bears, that was only, 4 or 5 teams that had a worse record than us, and they came back and beat us by 1 by throwing it to ex-Seahawk Jimmy Graham in the end zone, and then they went for 2 and they got it. Oh, what an awful, awful season. And I'm a broken record here, people, but I've spoken time and time again how if I was in charge of the Seahawks organization, what I would do, which is fire Pete, fire Schneider, and trade Russell Wilson for as many picks as you can, and then sit down some of the other veterans like your Tyler Lockett's, your Bobby Wagner's, and say, do you want to be here during the next rebuild? If not, we can trade you. And see what would happen. And it's not just me that's wondering this. The local sports journalists have been talking about the idea of Russell leaving the Seahawks for the last 2 seasons, but now the national sports writers have really jumped on board with this the last month or two. And this article just came out today because, unprompted, Russell Wilson spoke about his future. And this is what Russell Wilson had to say. I can't really do a good Cecil impression, so I'll just talk normal here. I know you guys asked Bobby Wagner about could this be your last game? This and that and all that. I know for me personally, I hope it's not my last game. But at the same time, I know it won't be my last game in the NFL. So I'm just focused on the day and getting better today. And so that's my focus. That's my goal. I love this city and I love this moment. I love these guys. Ugh, cheesy much? Now, the teams that he would have approved a trade to last year has been now expanded, thankfully. So last season, he said he would welcome a trade to either the Raiders, the Bears, the Cowboys, and the Saints. Now, a year later, the Raiders maybe still would be a good place to trade Russell to because they have Derek Carr and Marcus Mariota, but neither of those quarterbacks are better than Russell, not even the same echelon as him. The Bears, they just beat us, and they just drafted Justice Fields, whatever his fucking name is, like number 6. So they're not going to trade for Russell. They just drafted a rookie. The Cowboys, they have Dak Prescott on a big-ass extension, so they're out. And the Saints are still probably the number 1 team that I would imagine that he would want to go to. Although I take that back because some of the new teams are the Denver Broncos, the New York Giants. Oh, that's it. Okay, the Saints on there again. So really it's the Saints, Giants, Broncos, and Raiders, in my opinion. I personally would add Philadelphia Eagles to that list. Now the Giants would make the most sense to me. I think he would rather go play with the Saints because I think the Saints have a better all-around team and coach and organization, whereas the Giants are one dysfunctional team. And even though the Giants have more draft picks than the Saints do, I don't know if that would be enough. Although Russell Wilson and Sierra playing for the New York Giants in that fucking market, that just rings like a story that everybody wants to hear about. So I still would trade Russ to one of those teams, get as many picks as you can. I think this is exciting. I think once you get over the fact that this is our first losing season in a decade, you need to come to terms with who the Seattle Seahawks currently are, which is one of the worst teams in the NFL, bottom 5 feeder teams. And if you think about it, we really haven't been that good last year or the year before. And in fact, in my humble opinion, we haven't been the same kind of team since we lost the Super Bowl, but we're not going to talk about that because I will do seppuku if I have to keep talking about that goddamn Super Bowl loss. So, trade Russ, fire Pete, fire Schneider, and just try to get a young, up-and-coming coach from one of the better teams, see what the Rams or the Buccaneers or the Bills, or who are the other good teams this year? Well, the Packers are always good. I don't know. You have options, people. And although it would pain me to see Russell Wilson playing for any NFC team, seeing him play for the Raiders kind of gets me excited. But again, the Raiders don't have draft capital. Neither do the Saints. So you'd have to get players on top of picks. Whereas if we traded him to the Giants or the Eagles, they have multiple first-round picks. And I think we could even get a player or two from those teams. So I'm excited to see what the future holds. I don't even know if this team can beat the Detroit Lions on Sunday. And I would argue the Detroit Lions are one of the few teams still that are worse than the Seattle Seahawks in 2021. But Jesus Christ, I think they're even playing their backup quarterback. If we can't beat the Detroit Lions and their backup quarterback, who his name is, David Blau or something, I don't know. He's not. His name is not even worth learning. Well, I apologize to whoever the second string Detroit Lions quarterback is. Maybe you will turn out to be the next Tom Brady. I doubt it. So, poor Seattle Seahawks. But you cannot just say this is a one-year thing, because it's not. It's not. If you're a smart fan like me, you will notice a downward trend over the last few seasons. Is Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll just sick of one another? Maybe. Could you get rid of one and not the other? I sure as shit wouldn't. Do you really think if we fire Pete Carroll, we'll bring in a new head coach and that Russell Wilson's going to be playing like an MVP again? I sure don't think so. I think his time is done with us, just like Pete's time with us is done. And John Schneider, I'm sorry, but your draft and trades that you've done over the last few seasons leaves much to be desired. Yes, we have DK Metcalf, but that's about it from the recent drafts. And I can't think of the last trade that really worked out for us. Gabe Jackson's okay, but he's a aging offensive lineman. He's not a piece to build around. He was supposed to be one of the final pieces. And what hurts this team is that players like a Gabe Jackson were traded here on the idea that we have a Super Bowl winning team right now. We have to win now. Our stars are aging. They're getting up there in mid-30s or late 30s for some of them. I mean, that's a death knock for a lot of players in the NFL. So, and what's happened? We're 5-10 or some shit. So it's not looking good to bring back all three. I wouldn't bring back any of them, but that's just my opinion. But anyway, enough about Seattle Seahawks and the woes that is the 2021 season. I've been watching a lot of movies lately because of the cabin fever, and I'm going to talk a little bit about them next. It is award season for movies, and I've been watching a few. So to recap some of the movies I've already seen this year that I've been seeing be mentioned in these award shows, Dune, I still say Dune was the best overall movie I saw in 2021. And if you don't agree with me, that's fine. But you're just not as intelligent as me when it comes to movie appreciation. Maybe you're more of a reality TV show kind of person. Maybe you watch bullshit like The Masked Singer and say, now this is entertainment. And then you watch Dune and say, I don't understand what's happening because it's too highbrow for you. Stick to the gutter trash that is reality TV. That's what is for you. Embrace it. I don't judge you too much about that. Dune is number one. If you disagree, I just feel bad for you, that's all. I just feel disappointed. I thought I knew you better than that. Spider-Man, No Way Home. I thought it was the best blockbuster. It wasn't the best movie, but it was pretty damn entertaining. It was very fun. It's the best Marvel movie I've seen in quite some time. House of Gucci is a pretty awful movie. I recapped it a little bit over the last few podcasts ago, but the more I think about it, the more I think of what a fucking train wreck that movie was. I'm not going to go into great lengths to explain why I don't like House of Gucci, but to summarize, the accents were bad, the plot was bad, the flow was bad, the acting was atrocious, and the ending left a lot to be desired. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give it a 4. Now, some of the new movies I've watched over the last few weeks are Ba-ba-da-ba-ba-ba. See, the first one we're going to talk about is The Matrix 4. Revolutions? Revolutions? Is that the name? No, that's the third one. Resurrections, that's the fourth one. I watched the first 25 minutes of Matrix Resurrections, and I looked around like, what the fuck am I watching here? Is this a Matrix movie or not? It sure seemed to me that in the 15 years since the last Matrix movie, they just decided, you know what? Let's shit on the previous 3 movies and let's just make it up as we go along. It didn't feel like a Matrix movie. In fact, it didn't feel like any movie at all. It was just a waste of time. So then what I wanted to do was see some good action, because I explicitly remember Matrix 1 and Matrix 2 having some dank classic action scenes. And I would argue the freeway scene in the Matrix 2, arguably top 10 action scene in the history of cinema. Really, from the fight in the, I don't know what you want to call it, there was a fight in like a really nice house with Keanu Reeves fighting like 6 people, and they were jumping over some stairs and shit. And then there was a fight in a garage, and then there was a fight in the car, and then there was a fight on the freeway, and then there was a fight on top of a SUV. I mean, it was a wild fucking scene. And those action scenes I just described to you lasted well over 20 minutes to a damn near half hour of non-stop action. God damn it, I love that second Matrix movie. Well, I don't love it. I like those action scenes. The rest of the movie, it's kind of bullshit. But Matrix 4, skip it. It's pretty awful. I would even say it's probably one of the worst movies I've seen this year. But I saw a movie that was worse. I did not make it even 25 minutes into it. And that movie is Being the Ricardos. And that is on Amazon Prime. Holy shit. I mean, I would rather pull my fingernails out than watch a half hour of that movie. And it was an Aaron Sorkin film, but it was so bad. The dialogue was unbelievable. The acting was cheesy and stupid. Some of the casting options were dumb. And it was really bad and boring. And I'm sorry, Javier Bardem, I could not understand a goddamn word you were saying. It sounded like he was talking with tennis balls in his mouth. So skip Matrix Resurrections, skip Being the Ricardos. Oh, another movie you can skip is The French Dispatch, which really, really hurts. That movie is directed by one of my all-time favorite directors, Wes Anderson. I have seen every movie Wes Anderson has made, sometimes, multiple times. The Royal Tenenbaums, what's the hotel one? You know what I'm talking about, with Joseph Fiennes and the young Indian kid. Why can't I think of that fucking movie? The Budapest Hotel, something like that. I love that movie. And what's the movie about the Boy Scout? God damn it, I was just talking to my friend about this. Moonrise Kingdom. Those 3 movies are classics in my estimation. Even The Life Aquatic, I held in really high esteem. Watching it again, it's not as good as I remember, but it's still a damn good movie. And even the ones I did not enjoy as much, like the Darjeeling Limited, are still decent movies, I can say. But The French Dispatch, ugh, God, I kept waiting for something to happen. So, skip those 3 movies. But I did watch 2 good movies that I would highly recommend. One of them is getting pushback because of the subject matter and its elitism, which I agree. The movie Don't Look Up on Netflix is pretty pretentious and smug, but it's a pretty good movie too. And obviously, it's an analogy about global warming and the current COVID-19 pandemic. I get all that. So it is a little on the nose. And so if you are believing of the ideology that science is wrong, that global warming is a hoax, that you're anti-vax, you're not going to like this movie because it makes fun of people like you, which I say you should be made fun of. You're a clown. But I can also understand the criticism of the movie of it's being made for a select audience. Well, maybe I'm in that select audience, but I recommend Don't Look Up. It's not necessarily a comedy, and I see that it's being billed as a comedy, and I think that's a mistake. It definitely has dark comedy in it, but it's not like ha ha ha, laugh out loud funny. It's more of a, oh my god, this is so awful, but I'm kind of laughing, kind of funny. I think DiCaprio was good. I think Jennifer Lawrence was excellent in the movie. Meryl Streep and Jonah Hill were excellent. Tyler Perry and Cate Blanchett were good. Timothy Chalamet? Yeah, he was useless in the movie. Much like the French Dispatch. Timothy Chalamet, I had high hopes for you in 2021, but you're 0 for 2, baby. Don't Look Up and the French Dispatch sucks balls. Oh shit, I forgot. Dune. I take everything back, Timothy Chalamet. I'll suck your dick some more. Dune was excellent. Okay, I'm sorry. I forgot you were in 3 big movies in 2021. 2 were dog shit. Well, you were dog shit. But Dune was excellent. But Don't Look Up, we didn't need you in it. We really didn't. But I still recommend Don't Look Up. Even if you believe, oh, well, I don't get the vaccine because Bill Gates is a pedophile and I don't want to speak Mandarin and get microchipped. I would still watch the movie. Maybe you'll learn a thing or two about trusting science. But the best movie I've seen since Dune was Belfast, Kenneth Branagh's magnum opus, in my humble opinion. I was excited for Belfast the second I finished the trailer about 4 or 5 months ago, and I wasn't disappointed. There's just something about Irish movies that just makes me so happy, and it's not nostalgia by any stretch of the imagination, but the Irish, at least in my estimation, have the ability to balance darkness, macabre humor with the importance of family, the importance of community, the importance of humor, and even through bloodshed, tears, alcoholism, death, addiction, whatever you want to say, the Irish are able to tell the story with a little bit of brevity and a little bit of lightheartedness that I think is oh so important. I just like the way they make their movies. And Belfast is, it is deserving of a lot of nominations in my opinion, including acting, cinematography, editing, just picture and directing. Now, Kenneth Branagh is telling the story about his childhood, about Belfast in 1969 and 1970, and it may go longer, but it's at least those 2 years. I'm not going to go into detail about the plot because I don't want to give anything away. But if I had to rank the movies, I would say Belfast easily number 1. Easily number 1. Number 2, quite a ways number 2, Don't Look Up. But then it gets to be shit. The French Dispatch was bad. House of Gucci was bad. Matrix 4 was bad. Being the Ricardos was the worst. Now, there was some movies I tried to watch, but I just couldn't get a good download. I was trying to watch One Night in Soho, but I couldn't get a good download. I tried watching, what's the other one I wanted to watch really bad? The Eyes of Tammy Faye. Same problem. Couldn't get a good download. I still have to watch the latest James Bond movie and The Last Duel, that period piece with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon and Adam Driver, and I forget who the chick is. But those 2 I still have to watch. But I will say right now, my Oscar nominations are probably going to be for Dune, Power of the Dog, and Belfast, and depending on what the award is, Don't Look Up. Now, I'm sure Being the Ricardos and House of Gucci and The French Dispatch and all those other bullshit movies are going to be nominated because of who made them and who's in it and blah, 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 blah. It's all politics, baby. That's why Middle America fucking hates you. If you're going to watch one movie that I talked about today, watch Belfast. I'm already assuming you've watched Dune and Spider-Man No Way Home. If you haven't watched Dune or Spider-Man No Way Home, get off your ass and figure out your life. As I was prepping this podcast, I saw that the wonderful epitome of class and humor and everyone's favorite senior citizen, Betty White, died at the ripe young age of 99. She was so close to turning 100. Who the fuck dies on New Year's Eve? God damn it, Betty White. I loved you. There's so many other people I wish could die instead of you. I have a laundry list of people, actually. I'm not going to go into detail about why I personally admire Betty White, but I think her sense of humor is number 1. And just her character, just who she is, you know. I grew up watching The Golden Girls, and I even watched a little bit of Hot in Cleveland. But she's so much more than just an actress, so that's sad. It's really, really sad. Betty White, rest in peace. Even though I'm not doing anything for New Year's Eve because of the goddamn snow, I'll do a shot for you and maybe even knock out a few Golden Girls and Maybe I'll even knock out one if you looking up pictures of you before you turn 50, because I'm sure you were a banger. And lastly, I will fight anybody that says the combination of dark chocolate and peanut butter is not the best dessert combination. If you don't like peanut butter and dark chocolate, get the fuck out of this country, go to Russia, wait in line for bread, because in this country, we love dark chocolate and peanut butter. There is not a better combo. It's perfection. In fact, my last meal before I get executed, I'm going to request the largest spoon of peanut butter, creamy peanut butter, mind you. I've been a diehard crunchy peanut butter fan until I bought the, what the fuck's the brand? It's a very famous brand of peanut butter. Not Annie's? Amy's? Starts with an A. It's a fancy one. You see it at the World Market and Trader Joe's and what's that snooty place? Anyway, they make their own peanut butter and you get the right dark chocolate chips. Oh, baby, there's nothing better. So that's what I would want for my last meal. Big ass spoon of that. God damn it. That's pissing me off. I'm going to get that peanut butter. Hold on. All right. Well, I was way off with my trying to describe the peanut butter. The brand is Justin's Honey Peanut Butter. Now, they make the best dark chocolate peanut butter cups. Yes, I know Reese's has that market cornered, but fuck you, Reese's. This Justin's is the best. If you're ever at World Market, Whole Foods, or any of those other uppity places, snooty places, check out Justin's dark chocolate peanut butter cups. And if you like that, buy some dark chocolate separately. My mouth is watering because I'm holding this peanut butter. My dumb ass would just love to stick my face in here like a goddamn trough of peanut butter goodness. And what the fuck am I talking about? Oh yeah, peanut butter dark chocolate. If you don't like it, get the fuck out. So, with that, we are truly done. I hope you learned a thing or two from my ramblings here. Do I blame China for COVID and fentanyl? No. But if it comes out that they are to blame, I'm not going to be that surprised. But again, China, if you're listening, and I know that you are, don't take it out on me. Don't block my shit online. Don't kick me out of social media. Just know that I'm not going to fight you. You know, I think this country needs a little bit of communism to balance out the unfettered capitalism, because God forbid if we have too much socialism. Oh, God. In fact, I believe there's a lot of Republicans in this country that would love a little bit of communism. But anyway, enough about this. I love y'all. Take it sleazy. Look up some of the history lessons that I went over earlier. And treat others as you want to be treated. And yeah, just love yourself. And hopefully once you can do that, you can love other people. What a thought. Anyway, see you guys around the bend. Later, alligator. Lieutenant Dan and Forrest Gump on New Year's Eve is basically me this year.